Yo, what's good, everybody? It's Josh Sheckberg, and always my good friend Kenny. How you doing today, sir?
Oh,
Okay,
there we
well,
go.
that's good.
Trying to
That's
fill a little
good.
bit of an insect there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today we got a special guest, the one and only Mr. Donovan. How you doing today, sir?
I'm having a beautiful day and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, unfortunately, this week I didn't have enough time to make tea, so your boys just drinking water. But how are the cigars? What kind of cigars are you guys? I'm not even a cigar expert, so I'm not even just trying to act like I know a different kind. But is there a specialty to the cigars you guys are taking right now?
I have no
No,
idea how to
this
say
is
any of these words. Conjuni?
Is June? Do you know how to pronounce
Conjun?
that, King?
I didn't see it, but I mean, it doesn't really matter.
There it is. Give
But
it
the
a whack at it. Kanju.
Conjun.
Jong.
yeah, confusion,
Um,
conhona.
it's in the top
I
left
don't know.
corner. It's delicious.
No. Well, I'm curious, Mr. Donovan, when did the art of smoking cigars, how did that enter into your life?
Mm. In my first, after college, my first professional job, when I started making some actual, like, decent money, this was in 94, 95. My victory dance every month was a cigar. So that was my
Oh,
passage to adulthood and professionalism was to get a cigar every month. So that's where it started.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah,
Kenny, when
what
did you start?
cigar you smoked?
Oh,
That
Do you remember the first one you bought?
Hora de Oro, and I bought it just because it had a really cool sounding name.
Okay, very nice.
oh man. Oh man. What was it for you, Kenny? Do you remember your first one?
Yeah, my first one officially, I believe, was my friend's house. He had invited me. I don't know if it was he that invited me, or somebody else. And I went to his home and he offered me a cigar. And I've been smoking it ever since. That's going to be maybe roughly 8 years now.
It's not bad. That's not bad. That's so Trump getting elected kind of motivated. No, I'm just playing. Uh,
It was around that time, yeah.
it was 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, dude, I've smoking cigars has been one of those things for me where it's like a lot of my close friends smoke cigars. I mean, Kenny, you remember when we used to go with Ben to the garage and then Kyle? It's like there's
Yeah.
always that desire to want to do it, but I think 2025 will be my first year where I think I actually will smoke a cigar.
No,
So
nice.
No,
gotta figure out when the exact date is gonna be, but when it is, I will switch over to the other side.
the
But
the one thing I've learned in small business and entrepreneurship and everything else is there's no tomorrow. Just go today. The best time to do it is today.
God willing. That's what Kenny always says whenever him and I hang up over the phone, I'll always be like, because I'm the optimist side, I'm like, hey, I'll see you next week, Kenny. And then he's like, God willing, that reminder
Yeah.
of you never know. You know what I mean? Sometimes it makes you not want to hang up the phone when you hear something like that. You're like, maybe we should talk a little bit longer. But um, yeah, but well, Mr. Donovan, I know you and I kind of got to sit down a little bit and kind of hear your story. There's no really agenda to kind of how this kind of works out, but our hope is just to get to know you, and at the very end, we can talk a little bit about your business. But would love to get to know Donovan. So maybe just love to hear about your upbringing and just kind of what
Sure.
that journey was. And I know you and I have talked a little bit, so feel free to restate things that you've heard, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'll keep it kind of simple mid uh, because we only have a limited amount of time, and we want to keep some engagement here. Let's see. I grew up in a very Christian household with very conservative parents, both military. So and I was born in the mid '70s, so very Gen Xy, and had that kind of. very traditional, low lower class, poor upbringing, where you had to work for it, and if you wanted it, you had to go make it happen. So, but that's kind of got me up through high school. I wasn't a wild kid, but I definitely enjoyed being a little different to my own beat, march to the beat of my own drummer. And I enjoyed finding the fun in life and never taking it too seriously. Got me to college where I know you and I had discussed, did a lot of ministry, went to school to be a minister and did that for a little while. Kind of I call it my pre-life crisis in my early 20s, where I decided that I needed to find who I was as an individual. So I took a very long spiritual journey at that point, and I
Yeah.
think I came out for the better.
Nice.
And I love being an entrepreneur. We mentioned that, but I've also worked middle management. My dream goal when I was younger was to be middle manager. So I worked for that, found my love of entrepreneurship, and I've been running that almost 20 years, mixing and matching between the things. But that got me up to today.
Yeah. 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 No, can you elaborate a little more on your upbringing? I know you said that you
Mhm.
grew up kind of like in a spiritual home, but how did that impact your maybe understanding of your parents, understanding of your faith? How to walk through that journey a little bit.
Yeah, so I was raised in the Church of Christ, the non-denominational uh, flavor of it. I know there's lots of Church of Christ, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, all that stuff. It's the COC, it's standard bare bone version, and it was very conservatively strict. A lot of the upbringing was very traditional, very classical, and very restrictive. Was a big thing. So working within that conservatism uh, shaped my foundation to what I consider to be a very strong foundation to uh, how I build my thought processes and my beliefs. I don't know that I I love to be conservative. I absolutely do, but I also love to support everyone's right to express and find themselves, whether that
Mm,
be left or right or center. I want for everyone to be able to find what I found, which is a good sense of self.
ouch. No, when you're talking about your upbringing being conservative, Christian influence, the COC, that's the was it Church of Christ? Is that what it is, right? Church of
Correct.
Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. Church of Christ.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
I know. Is the language of fire and brimstone? Is that kind of the alleyway of kind of your
oh.
upbringing, or
Oh yeah. Uh, everything you're guilty of
keep going
everything
on
right
that?
off the bat. Now, the hellfire and brimstone approach was you're wrong of everything. You're never worthy of anything. Uh, so you got to earn it, and then you can earn it up to a point. Then you have to know to let go and let God. So you can walk as hard of a life as you want to get there, but you're never going to make it without that forgiveness and that price that was paid.
I find that that's one of the challenging things with, um, I guess this would be just about everything, right? It's like you can find truth in the smaller details, right? But it's also covered with a lot of other stuff that kind of, right? So as a Christian, like,
Yeah.
is forgiveness, like, is what Christ did important? Is absolutely right. So like
Oh.
that could be true, but then you add on all this other extra stuff, right? And
Hmm.
you can't really. It's hard to tell someone I agree with this, but not all of this because they put it all
Yeah.
together. Was
So,
that God?
oh, is it that negotiation tactic that every religious organization has of the Bible as a whole is very contradictory and very conflicting. So you have to find the things that ring true for you and negotiate out the things that don't ring true. So those conflicts that are inherent in the scriptures, you just gotta like, well, spare the rod, spoil the child, or I'll forget the phrase for that. But, you got left and right. You got one way to do it and another way to do it, and it's all in there. So negotiate out which ones you want.
Yeah.
But when you say
So,
that you grew up in a very restricted situation, what kind of restrictions did you have?
oh my gosh. Well, and I don't want to say restrictive, but restricting in that conservatism. Like you don't wear certain things, you don't talk certain ways. You've got to represent your life in the way that you're taught to represent it. So in our households, it was very much my dad was a Marine when we were younger. He switched over to Coast Guard. My mom was Air Force. So you bleed red, white, and blue, uh, which, God, country, men. Uh, so it's not that, again, a lot of what we see in today's world where you can be a Fruit Loop or you can be a furry or you can be anything you want to identify with. And again, not that there's anything incorrect with it. Our lifestyle was raised that you had to fit this mold, which was the mold that my brother and I, our father, put for us, and that's what we had to be. So Jesus was this flavor, God was this flavor, Holy Spirit was this flavor, and you acted accordingly within that.
So what was your relationship with your parents like?
Contentious? Um, I- you know, I, I after years of adult therapy, I can honestly say that I do forgive my dad for how he was, and I know that he was doing the best he could with what he had. And he had a hard life. I look back and I learned about, what his bloodline was doing. It was hard. So, uh, and any Gen X person will tell you it's just life, and you can learn to deal with it. You get somebody from that generation where it's just it is what it is, and you keep moving forward. So it was very strict, very physically disciplined. So had a aggressively disciplined father and a mom who would just allow it to happen because it was the dad's role to do the things. So, but that was it. It was as much as that was that. I do always go back to at the same time my dad taught us when we were kids. We were supposed to be kids. We were supposed to have fun. And
Mm.
it was okay if we got into trouble because we were doing kid stuff, and then we got disciplined, like to make it right. But it's just life.
I feel like that's one of the things that so I'm reading a book right now, and in the book it's talking about how there is a um it's like every sounds like every problem that we all have somehow it's connected to our childhood. That's where it seems like everybody's like, go back to your childhood and look into that, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of truth to that and not trying to pull away from it. But one of the challenges that I've had is so with my personality type, we tend to be a people that we so people pleaser, avoider that I can be when it comes to conflict is I don't I can sometimes see things as well, I don't want people to think that I'm ungrateful, that I was
Okay.
adopted from Africa. Like I don't want people to think I'm ungrateful. And so I really don't complain very much about hardships, right? It's like
Yeah.
I know Ken, you've heard me say this numerous times. Like I always say the gift of being adopted outweighs any hardship that I've ever faced. And like at some level, I think that's a very true statement. Like it really is an absolute gift.
Hmm.
I know Kenny, when you think about your situation too, but it's a gift to be here. And trust me, I do not want to be in Ethiopia under the conditions I could be. Like I'm just being honest. I don't want to be under that. So what that means is I tend to think that my childhood is like, oh, there was no hardships. It's all good. It's all peachy,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm thinking of this other thing. But the challenge is to be able to look at that and say, okay, it is possible to still be grateful for the life that I have. And also at the same time, realize that there were things in my upbringing that were not okay, that
Yeah,
did impact me in a certain way. That's something that's very hard for me to do. And it sounds like when you talk about your father, that's where you're like, that sounds like what I'm hearing you say is like, you've been able to reflect back and see things as they were. Like to hear you even say, almost like he did in areas, he did do the best that he could where he could.
hmm yeah. I think comparison is always the thief of joy. So to say like, hey, and like it could be this way, or it could have been better, or it could have been worse, doesn't matter. It is what it is. How do you process it within you? Then how do you make it good within you so that you can move forward? And not that you just ignore it, because that's always unhealthy. But you have to face it and deal with it and become the person you were supposed to be with that foundation that was laid for you. When we're kids, we don't have the ability, we don't have the frontal cortex or even the rights to dictate how we're supposed to be raised. That's our parents' jobs, and um, I like uh, to look at, hey, being adopted, like somebody actually chose you. We just got stuck with the people we got. It's like you were wanted. So
Well,
no, anyway, um, yeah. There's the when you when you when you're given the uh, I think I think we talked about this in the past. I talk about it all the time. That Chinese proverb about the farmer and the horse.
mhm.
Are you guys familiar with
Yep.
that one? Okay. Um, it could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
good. It could be bad. You just don't know. Time will tell. You got to wait and see. So every time you get an input, you get as an adult to reflect on it and to go through the nuances of it and add it into your life and make that a part of who you are. My house is always being built. It'll never stop. There's a new wing of me being built constantly.
Do you have Donovan? Do you have a family? Are you married with kids and all that?
I was married. We're married for just shy of 7 years. I do have one son. He's 14, and he is my
Okay.
carbon copy. And I love this boy with everything that I can. And I'm finding new avenues inside of me that develop even more love every time. Every day I get to wake up and see him. He makes me a better person, and I want to be better so that I can give him better. But he's a freaking firecracker. Yeah. I have a lot of family. My mom and my grandma are here. My cousins are all moved within the vicinity of me. Aunts, uncles in my life. I've got my full brother. I've got two half brothers, and on the adoption side, we were a foster family growing up. I've had 14 different foster brothers and sisters. So we were a
Wow.
place to bring kids into to give them a safe space while they're going through their troubles, and we help them get adopted
When
out.
you say we, like, are you talking about your parents, or are you
Yeah,
talking about um your parents said that?
yeah, my parents. So while
No
I was
kidding.
growing up, we had
For how
other
long?
kids in the house. 7 years, 8 years. We had foster kids coming through with us.
No kidding.
Yeah, we had 14 actually that come through us. So I come from a very small yet very big family.
I'm curious to know what, I mean, when you talk about having a rough childhood,
Hmm?
right? And the challenges you went through, was it all the way up until you left the home, or was it like by age 9 or 10, my father changed, and that's when we started to foster? Like, I'm trying to connect the two,
Yeah,
where it sounds like you had a different.
and when I say it was difficult and challenging, um, my dad had expectations that you would be a certain way, and I have a hard time being what people expect me to be. So we were. Um, there's a lot of friction, And so he had a very prescribed version of who I was supposed to be for myself and my brother. We did have a house filled with love. There's a lot of love in there. A lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of activities. We were always on an adventure, but at the same time, it was expected to be a certain type of adventure. Uh, so we were a good Christian family in the positives and negatives, what that is. So if you, like, we had to, you say your prayers before your meals at night, all the good traditional things. Um, I had a bit of a mouth on me, so and I was a very independent streak. My brother, my full brother that I have, he was an X Games guy before X Games were around. So if there was a tree to jump out of, or a house to jump over, or a bicycle to go over a jump with, or skateboards to ramp, he did them all. I wasn't that adventuresome physically. I'm a klutz. I trip and fall over my own feet. But he's pretty gifted,
What the hell are you
actually.
talking about? You're an entrepreneur. That's like that's adventure and
It is.
fucking
I
steroids.
do a different kind of adventure.
So
Oh,
what type of entrepreneurial challenges do you, so what type of entrepreneurial things do you do? Where have you put your feet
um, we
into?
s- yeah, it's a lot of customer service retail-y type things. My brother and I started at a very young age. I think I was about 6 years old, coming on seven. We lived down the street from a golf course. So we would find golf balls and resell them back to golfers. We go out in the fields and find balls they hit errant and clean them up and resell them. And that was my comic book money, stuff like that. So it was always, if you wanted it, you got to go out and find a way to get it. It's your responsibility to get all the extra stuff that you wanted in life. So did that. Um, my first business that I had was a cell phone beeper business back in 96, 97.
Oh,
I was,
Dang.
business. You were like one of the dinosaurs from the fucking this fucking business beepers.
Did you witness Moses pick up the tablets? What's going on here?
Dude,
That's funny.
how did the beepers go?
it's a,
The
it's a fun little business. And in the last 15 years, my ex-in-laws owned a beer and tobacco store, so I bought into that and ran here in Idaho. Liquor is state run, so you can only have beer wine shops, no liquor. So we had a beer and smoke shop. Uh, Worked through that, had fun with it, learned a ton about business. I moved over to the vaping business when I got big. And I had three retail shops and distribution. So I had a warehouse and resold nationwide. I had 20 plus employees working for me. Sold that, and then now I do a poop scooping business with my kids. So,
Can you elaborate a little bit on that business with your kids? How did it start?
my boy, his
I
name is Man.
assume you saw some poop on the ground and said I could scoop that shit up. Literally.
Literally.
And get
Literally,
paid for
literally, dude, I got the.
Well, please go.
Oh no, he wanted to make some money. COVID had come down. He wanted to buy a Nintendo Switch, and it was just okay. Well, like how do you get a Nintendo Switch? I grew up in the world where if you wanted it, you had to go make it. So it was on his responsibility to work to get that. And I'm of course the type of father that I want to be. Is it if my son wants to do something, I will make the road for him to travel to go and make that thing happen. I have no problem. I won't do the work for you. Hey God, I'll clear a forest if that means you got to do it. So he wanted to make some money. He tried to mow lawns. He was too little for that. So I had him scoop under dog poop for at our house. I could get paid for that. And our lawn guy had come over, and he was going to mow, and my kid was out scooping, and my lawn guy said, "Hey, it's like I wish everybody had someone who would scoop before I mowed." And this kid raises his hands. Says, "How much is that pay?" So right there, our business was born. He started scooping for money. I was supporting him in that, and the dang thing grew to become our business.
Oh, Yep.
Yes.
That's cool. I like that. There was something you said that I found very interesting, and I think it's true. There is a part of being a father that is, I guess, clearing the path.
Mhm.
At minimum, pointing the right. And you made a distinction between something. You said that there's you have an expectation for yourself, is how the kind of father you want to be, versus, for example, when you said earlier that your father had expectations of how he wanted you to be as a
Mhm.
young man, right?
Yeah.
Um, so would you say that is there a dichotomy between who you want to be for your son versus who your father, for example, wanted you to be as a young man? And it's important to kind of learn your father wanted you to grow up to be.
Good
Dang,
question.
that's a good question, man.
That's a great
Why
question,
you
man. Yeah.
doing that? I mean, of course there is. Like, I would love for my son to do and love the things that I love, uh, which he is absolutely 100% not interested in. Any of them.
Yeah.
I love WWE wrestling. I mean, that
Come
demolition
Oh yeah.
on.
derbies,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Yo. Oh.
tractor pulls.
We're gonna have to come back
I
to WWE.
I I love auto racing with a deep, deep passion. Anytime you can put four wheels on the ground and do something dumb with it, I'm game. Uh, and
Yeah. No,
he,
no. I suspect that any bald white man with a beard is definitely doing some crazy shit with some ATVs or anything with fucking wheels.
Rude.
He's-
uh,
That's hilarious. Oh, he left.
what happened?
Oh, he left. I think he hit the wrong button.
Okay, he'll come.
He'll come back. Yeah, there he is. This is great. Dude, that's funny. Hopefully his quality gets a little bit better, but it is what it is. It's sad. Oh man. Dude. Oh
am
well,
I
we're
here?
back now. I think. Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay. A white man and wheels. You guys are cracking me up.
Mhm.
Dude, I don't know what happened, but the quality actually is better now.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah?
This is actually kind of a win. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
Ken,
was yeah, that's yeah.
for
Yeah.
me,
Okay, so
Kenny
we're good.
Kenny was a little more digitized, but yeah, now he's Wakely.
There it is. Okay, we're good.
All right.
I don't know if it's going to disconnect again, but it is what it is. But anyways, to the
No
question you
no
were
worries.
asking,
Yeah.
uh,
The
Donovan, go
dichotomy.
ahead. Yep.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So, man. Oh yeah. So, recenter. Okay. So Manny is he's in love with and he's very engineering. He wants to be a civil engineer. He wants to build bridges and stuff like that, which is awesome. I love that
Yeah.
for him. But it's uh, there's there's just a part of it that like man, I wish I want to share my love and my passions more with him. But I also know that for me to make him want to do it, it's just not who he is. So when you talk about that dichotomy of the expectations that were put on me to be versus what I put on him to be, I try every day to take the aspect of he's not me, but he is a strong-minded, beautiful human being, and he's going to be amazing. So I want to put him in an environment where he can grow with that and be a part of it, and do it on his terms. So that's a difficult line to walk, um, because I want so much for things, but I also know that he's got to do it himself. He's got to be the person he's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's on me to help him to put the. I talk about bowling a lot because I like to bowl as well. I talk about the bowling lanes, the bumpers. That it's my job to give him bumpers so that when he's chucking his ball down the lane, he's going to hit the pin. And then as he gets better skills in that, I widen it out and widen it out and widen it out, giving him more opportunities to miss, but to still not fail until his skill set is such that he doesn't need those bumpers anymore.
Well done.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I didn't know you like bowling, man. You need to come bowling. We go every Tuesday. So I feel like
So
you should start
I
joining us.
go to bowling, but I've got a plethora of bodily injuries that prevent me from being able to huck a ball down a lane. So I'll granny bowl. I put it on the thing
Oh,
and
so you need the gutters. Oh, so you need the
I
gutters, the guardrails.
we talked about my love of auto racing. I race here at Meridian Speedway and anywhere I've ever been able allowed to get on a track. And I'm a very proficient wrecker. I do end up on the wall quite a lot. So and having to be extricated out of a vehicle post wreck. So that's the lifestyle I lead.
I like you need to be sponsored by Red Bull or something.
We got to make it a show at least. Just like with so there's a guy I used to race with. His name was Sam. He was also a big WWE guy. But we would try to have personas while racing, to like even in our driving styles. To be, I love to be the bad guy. I freaking love to be the heel. I would rather people boo me than cheer me because I want.
What?
Yeah, well,
One
people
of those
love a good
guys.
heel. Yeah, people love
Oh,
a
you've
good
never
heel.
heard of these kinds of people?
The are you not entertained people?
Well, people are more entertained by negativity than they are with positivity. So you gotta have something for the hero to go against. Every great Spider-Man, the reason Spider-Man's so amazing, he's got one of the best villain galleries around. Batman's got an amazing villains gallery. That's what makes the hero the hero.
I
That's a
think
And
good
that's a
point
good
because
one.
if
Yeah.
you go ahead, Kay.
Go on, Josh.
I was just gonna say it's interesting you guys say that because like when you think of Superman, right? His real villain that's actually I mean Lex Luthor's the brain one, right? But it's
Mhm.
like a lot of his characters are just like it's just power and power.
Right,
But when
that's
you look
boring.
at Bat, well, I mean, it depends, man. Brainiac was pretty cool. I like Brainiac a lot. But but you're right though. Batman's. I mean, you have the Riddle, you have the Riddler, you have Joker, you
Penguin.
have Penguin. Like all these people, they have to like outsmart Batman, which is like nearly impossible because at the end he always wins, right? So there's no way you could. But I see what you're saying that there's clever. I never thought of Spider-Man having great villain. I've never been a
He's
fan of Spider-Man villains.
he's got amazing.
Yeah, they always seem a bit goofy to me, but I can, if I always get behind like someone like, I can get behind someone like this guy, Doc Ock, right?
Alcock.
He's this, yeah, I can get behind him, but,
He's a sympathetic villain.
like, right,
Most of Batman's
no,
and
yeah, for
Spider-Man's are
sure.
sympathetic villains. They have something that's matter that
That's
their goal is to achieve something, but it just happens to be they're going kind of against the norms.
I mean,
I
I
see
would
what you're
say
saying.
that one of the best, I agree, I do agree with this. There's something about it, at least if not fully agree, I would say there's something here, right? Because,
Mhm.
um, the story is made all the more interesting by how strong or how clever or crazy the villain is, right? Like when we watch when we watch, I mean, everybody knows Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
Like um, he's this chaos, you know,
That's all he is.
chaos character. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He
Yeah.
just comes in and fucks shit up, and you never know what the hell he's gonna do. And he's just entertaining to watch. I mean, even like, someone like this dude, what's his name? The American Idol judge, Simon, whatever the hell his name is. He's like
Cal,
this,
Simon Cal. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like this bad guy who everybody
He was
loves to
honest.
boo, but every now and then he does something sweet, and he's like, oh, he does have a heart, but he's generally kind of villainy, right? Same thing with, I
In
think many
his
years ago was,
villainy, is he wrong?
So he's a truth
well,
teller. That's the thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's living his life and he's following
yeah,
a good, he's following his morals and ethics and how he behaves is consistent. And he is
yeah, that's why, for
consistently
example,
sharp.
no, you're correct. And that's one of, I think that villains actually are more interesting than heroes today. So
Yeah.
when I watched, Endgame or, the
Come on.
Avengers,
Come on.
I love Thanos. I actually wanted Thanos to win. I didn't think the Avengers deserved to win. I thought they were children. Just a bunch of babies clapping their little fat hands together and making stupid little noises. I thought, I kid you not, I thought that Thanos was a wonderful character
He
and he
is.
deserved to kick their ass beyond measure. You know what I mean?
Well, he did. That's the whole thing about Endgames is he did. So
Yeah, but
Infinity
then they
Wars,
cheated.
they cheated. They cheated. They cheated.
No,
They
I
did. But
I agree. Thanos was a fantastic villain, and they should have made more of him. Like I would have loved to
the
see
thing that's
him in.
also,
Right.
I was just gonna say, the thing that's interesting about Thanos that I think sometimes people forget is like, so there's people that like they get power hungry, right? Because that's the whole thing with him is he was power hungry. He said he had a cause, but at the end you're like, is he really mean the cause, right? He fulfilled his purpose, and then like the power didn't control him.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like in Lord of the Rings, the ring like overtook people, and they became something they never wanted. He did what he said he was going to do, and not an inch more. And then he destroyed the rings,
The, the
the
stones.
stones. He destroyed the stones. Yeah, he destroyed them. Which for me, that was very. That's one of the things that I took away from him. I was like, so he really was. He really thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He
He
wasn't
was
going to
more
go an
prin-
inch further.
he
He,
was principled. He was more
yeah.
Yeah,
principled, more grounded mentally than the heroes. He knew exactly who he was, what he wanted to accomplish.
He
he
was
was
Focused,
in
ruthless,
disciplined.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he disciplined. And I thought, yeah, he just absolutely deserves to win.
Now the Thanos that comes at Endgames, where he realizes his plan fails, that Thanos is a different Thanos. Now that's the he became a different person. But that
Yeah.
is interesting though, that the villains, the heroes nowadays are not as exciting. You're right.
Well,
I think about that. The villains tend
No, because
to,
they're babies.
the
Excuse
the
me.
heroes in modern tales are overpowered in title, and a good hero is someone who has to overcome immense odds. But right now, our villains are weak. They're the reason, the plot device, the MacGuffin, so that the hero can do the fancy cool things with the fancy cool stuff. Um, and that's not entertaining. That doesn't make a good hero's journey.
I mean, what's the Joker film, right? With Joaquin
Dark Knight.
Phoenix. He ends up winning. Oh no, no, no. So that's the Heath Ledger, but I'm talking about the
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix Joker,
Oh,
right? So
oh yeah, yeah.
the so the thing about the Heath Ledger version Joker is like he's straight chaos and he's hard to empathize with. You can't really empathize with him because you don't know his backstory. He's
Mhm.
just chaos, right? Some people just want to see the world burn. What made Joaquin Phoenix so interesting is that you actually got to see his upbringing. You see he gets abused. You see his relationship with his mom. You see the way society treats him. Like you actually start rooting for You know, it's like you start rooting for this guy. And so I'm
You
just telling you
understand?
from the way that you understand them. Yeah, like there's how do you not connect with somebody that gets rejected by humanity? That's his whole thing. Was he got rejected by everybody? How do you not empathize with somebody that gets I'm not saying that his actions are good, but it's like they developed his character to the point where you're like, I can understand why a person turns out the way that he turns out.
It's unfortunate
Doesn't
that he
make it
got there.
okay.
And you fall through that many
Yeah,
Yeah,
cracks in society.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, no, I agree. You're right. So we get a chance to see him and we can understand where he's coming from. However,
Mhm.
the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, to me, I think that he kind of brought a lot of those things on himself. Don't get me wrong, when you grow up with a parent who's abusive and so forth, I get that. That's not
Yeah.
particular, like you said, you're born into the family that you're born into. You don't really have a choice in that.
Mhm.
Well,
But when you're an adult, right? When you're an adult, you make decisions for yourself. I get that bad things happen in the past, but I don't think that the past is necessarily the past can be used
mhm.
as
To
a
excuse your current. Like
base
a,
to excuse your
Yeah,
courage.
for
You know
sure,
what I mean? So
for sure.
I think there was a situation where um some I think somebody handed him a gun to hide from
Yeah,
him or
yeah.
something like that. It's like, dude, you're a grown man. You're a grown fucking man. you say no. They don't want to hide the gun. They don't want to hide the gun. What is wrong with you? You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that would have been like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, sorry, dude, not my fucking gun. Don't know what you did with it last night. Not gonna put it in your locker. You know, and they're just little things like that, you know, but I get it. I get what they're trying to do. For what they're trying to do, it makes sense. But I
I
find
do
it hard to sympathize with them.
no, but I think one of the other things that are challenging with people that can have that rough upbringing is you almost will do anything to fit in, right? You hear, but you see this with young kids specifically, right? Where it's like they find themselves in a crowd, or you could even look at in the inner cities, right? You have kids in the inner city that don't really have a family, don't have anything, and so I think Tupac talks about this in one of his songs, right? It's this whole idea of like he found more love amongst gangsters than he did with not. And
Oh,
so it's like for him, it was pretty easy. I'm going to go in that direction. I think there's a little bit of that as well. But again, the reason I was bringing up the Walking Phoenix thing is there is something about like when you get to hear the backstory of villains. I don't know. There's a part of us that maybe I should speak for myself, but rarely. Maybe this is. I'll say it this way: when I see people do horrific things, villains doing bad things, rarely do I see something that I think I'm incapable of, that
mm,
people couldn't drive me to that level. I know it sounds weird, not maybe not to you guys, but whoever's listening might get caught off guard with this, but it's like rarely have I seen an evil action, right? That I thought there's no way I can do such a thing.
mm,
Um, and I think there's something about when I watch something like Walking Phoenix or something where I think, okay, well, and I'm not trying to compare myself to that, but it's like I've had moments where I'm like felt really low, mentally feeling really, really low,
mm,
right? And some external force entered into my life that kind of shifted me into a different direction. And I think even Donovan, when you talk about your upbringing, right, you've kind of hinted at some stuff that potentially like physical abuse could have been
mm.
something that was present in the home, right? And so it's like I'm curious to know for you, were there moments in your life, are there incidences that, are there people that you encountered that shifted you away? Not saying you were heading towards a walk, that Joker route, but it's like you had a rough upbringing. So what were some milestones indicated? Maybe people that encountered you that helped you go into a different direction.
So I keep I'll tell everybody. Um, I talked my victory dance, my first big professional role at college. Um, I lucked into having a role in a company where the two owners, who were best friends, created a working environment that was truly one of the best, healthiest working environments you could possibly get into as a young man. Everything they did, both the owners, every week would come through. We had multiple locations. I want to say 150, 180 employees. Um, and they would sit at your desk every week, one of the owners, and say, "Hey, Donovan, what do you need to be better? What will make you more successful? And what input do you have of this business that we can do to make this run?" That was a big part of everything they did. Um, and at that same time is when I was going through all of my inner crises, having that pre-life crisis, having that like, who am I? What's my faith, my religion? What's my moral and ethical pieces that make me the man I am? At the same time, I had these two individuals and their wives who were just amazing people. And then upper management was the same. Everyone was geared up. This is again the mid late 90s. The typical pyramid of power in your businesses with owners on top and the underlings right on the bottom. They lived the life that had that upside down. They were the fulcrum that everything sat on, and it was their job to balance it to make it successful. It all fell on their shoulders, not they sat at the top and ate all the wealth. So while going through who am I and what am I, had multiple role models in that for 2.5 years while I was there show me what a good person is. And not just people who said words, but people who lived a life, who were exemplary examples of what it meant to be a good man, a good husband, a good business owner. So that uh, in my life really helped me define out what it would be to be that person. And then I lucked into so many lucked into. I don't think I was worthy of any of just the next role after that was the complete opposite, where the head was literally milking them. You know, he was happily taking the abusing the power. So to go from one to the other showed me the other side of that coin, which was a great experience for me because I knew immediately this is not the person I want to be when I grow up. So that helped through uh, that tumultuous time in my life of getting out from the rules and restrictions of my family growing up, going to college, and finding that my belief system was not what I wanted to have in my life, redefining all of that and seeing uh, in a 4 year period a completely different and being able to read it better. So I had some amazing people that helped me get away from where I could have been had I followed the life that I was given as a child, and to be a more positive faith, driven to support, and finding that in the role of support, I become a better human. And it set for me my own foundation of what I want. And telling other people what to be, admit.
Yep.
So say that last part again.
So just to being a person who says you have to be this or you have to do things this way, to be that
Yeah.
author- I want to say authoritarian. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, I'm not. I don't ever want to be that. I want to. Like for my son, I'm never going to tell him who he has to be. As he makes those rules for himself, I'm going to make sure that he's able to be successful. And much rather do that. So I could have gone other directions. My brother, born and raised in the same house, had the same dad, same mom. He's a completely different human being, and that's good for him.
And
It's what
what?
he wants to be.
Yep. Hmm. So, so as you're going down this journey, I know you said at one
Mhm.
point you were kind of heading towards the direction of ministry, and it sounds
Mhm.
like, I mean, sound like you went a different path. Can you elaborate a little more on that journey of college and stuff?
Uh, I don't think I'm on a different journey. I think I'm on the same journey. I think my daily
Okay.
life, I live to be a minister. Um, I just don't minister for the structured systems of this is what faith is. I went to through the Church of Christ. I went to a private Christian school to study the Bible and on a theological level, to present sermons and to be a minister. And that wasn't the life that I was meant to be. Big thing that I look at, and feel free to counterpoint anything you want. Uh, I I don't remember reading anything in the Bible about Jesus saying this is how church should be, and that this is how, like, three songs, two prayers, a 30-minute sermon, and you got to do these things. That structure, and you, other than tithing, things like that, which you're all supposed to do, and I'm happy to do those things. Um, I don't buy into the ideology that I need a structure to tell me what's good for my spiritual. He's googling scripture right now. Look at him. He's doing it.
Well, them is some fighting words. She just said some fighting words, Josh.
Look at the size of these shoulders.
they say they say it's not the size that counts, sir. It's the motion of the ocean, some shit like that.
What's your thoughts on that, Kenny?
Well, it makes bloody good sense. Yeah, you know.
Make me fall out of my chair.
Well, it makes a lot of
But
sense. I mean, but
I,
here's the thing, right? Is there's no, you're right. We have this, there's a tradition that, Christians have followed for um, roughly, what, 2,000 years now. And yeah, when you look through the scriptures, you know, yeah, you have some instructions here and there about what the gathering ought to look like. But I mean, we have a lot of specifics that again are more extra biblical, right? And
mhm.
then you have people who go back to the old Leviticus, the Levitical laws, and try to blend those styles into the modern day Christianity and so forth. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I'm the wrong person to argue against this because I really don't care.
That's,
Um,
I love that.
but
Because I don't care what you do. It's great. If that works for you, go for it. I'm not going to rock you for that. Um, but if you don't,
no,
you're not getting punished for that.
well, punishment aside, there's a friend of mine who's a pretty cool guy. Every time we chat, he says something like,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
it's all
Well,
subjective.
Mama.
And there's a line that I like from this show. I don't know if you know the show. It's called um, Landman.
Mhm.
It's a great show.
Billy
It's a
Bob
great show.
Thornton.
It's about this dude. Oh yeah, you've seen it too?
Just a couple episodes. I'm waiting to devour it whole. And I'm
It's a
still
great
doing
show.
Goliath.
And
So,
I haven't seen Goliath. Um, but he said, I just gave you a compliment and you're Gen Z all over it. And I thought that's a fucking great line, isn't it? It's like, yeah, for sure. Like the idea for me is that all life is both subjective and objective, right? There are things that
mhm.
are what they are, no matter what you think. And there are things that we have the opportunity and the freedom basically to think around and figure out for ourselves. Um, but I don't think that, all practices are particularly equal. But at the end of the day, if you, um, every man must give an account for what he thinks and what he believes and so forth. But I think there is a place where, it's just fun when we can, I think, under the right circumstances, butt heads and throw fists, right? Um,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, so I absolutely believe that. I think it's very necessary. But ultimately, yeah, everybody's going to believe what they want to believe and do what they want to do. Um, but one of the most interesting things about life and conversation is are the verbal fistfights. Um, but I do, for the most part of what you said, there, I can relate with what you're saying. I fall roughly under the same account.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
you
think
hit on something that I absolutely love in life, which is the image of two rams on the mountain who are bopping each other's heads, trying to get each other's point across. I love that analogy, and the painting of that situation, where it's 100. You should. A whetstone and a sword go together. A sword without a whetstone ain't nothing. It's a dull stick. If you don't challenge your thoughts, if you don't challenge your beliefs to make it a sharper thing for you, then you got a wasted tool.
That is good.
I think I guess I'll be the different angle of this. Well, maybe not a different angle, but just potential
Counterpoint.
opposition to this.
Counterpoint.
But
Yeah.
well, I don't even know. Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed that's hard is like when you look at the church and the way that it's structured, right? I mean,
Mhm.
People are looking at Paul, they're looking at Titus, they're looking at Timothy, right? And then you're looking at tradition, right? Trying to see how things have been done for a long time. And though there's not an explicit command, not like that says you have to, right? But they will go to the, one of the verse that goes is do not neglect uh gathering together, right? And it's like, okay, well, does that mean for a meal? Does that mean for a church service, right? Um, I guess my question is, why do you think that, do you think it's a good intention? So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of people go to church on Sunday
Mhm.
and do these things because they believe that the Bible tells them they need to go, right?
Mhm.
And the other side of it is it seems like it's a good thing to be a part of as well,
Community.
right? It may not be an explicit, yeah, community and things like that. Do you feel like do you feel like something has happened that the view that people have of this is now negative? Like, why is it like? Because I feel like this is a rise. I feel like I feel like there's a wind that's blowing in a certain direction. Again, I'm not saying the
Mhm.
wind is good or bad. I'm just saying like it seems like I hear this more frequently, where people are like, I don't go to church. I still read my Bible. I'm still close with Christ. I'm doing these things, right? But the act of having to go on Sunday gathering, um, do you guys think do you feel like there's something going on right now, or
Um,
are people waking up to something? What's your thoughts?
I, I think that a community of people who get together, regardless of being Sunday or Saturday or whatever day, when they do it out of habit, they do it because that's how they were raised and disciplined, and they don't see the actions that match the teachings, it gets questionable on why they're doing what they're doing. When you give your tithings, your donations, and you see leadership rolling up in fancy cars, way fancier than you could ever dream about having, it's questionable. When you get a mega church with a plane and these guys are flying all over, it's hard to say that you're not in touch with me as a lower middle class or upper lower class or any other class. wait, you don't have a
Uh,
jet? You don't have a private jet?
no, I mean, I got three, but that's because I'm an entrepreneur.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
No, it's
All
just
right.
when
I
you're
was
when
gonna
your
say, I can't
community,
relate with people like
when
Yeah, if you're
your
beneath
chosen
me.
people
that.
are classed out as well, and you're no longer able to. You look at this person on top, your minister, or the deacons, elders, however your structure is set up, your popes, your fathers, whatever, uh, and you don't see an ability to connect to them. You're not you're not in a real community anymore. So more and more people are looking towards something that is a genuine connection. We look at what churches
Okay,
were from the
so
30s,
let me
40s,
ask you on that,
50s.
Donald.
Hmm?
Let me ask you on that. So if you found a church that was doing, so what I'm trying to distinguish is it
Yeah.
there's something wrong in Sunday gathering, and that's why people don't attend.
Mhm.
So the question is, if the Sunday gathering had checked off these boxes, would you continue going to Sunday, or is there some other reason why you don't go?
Oh man, I go to church every Saturday night at the racetrack. I got a couple thousand people all singing songs that I agree with. Just like when I go to a monster truck rally or if I go to a wrestling match, dude, we're all at church. And the gospel is still the gospel. You're just hearing it from a different point of view.
Oh, okay. So this is a helpful clarification because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to clarify: is there something wrong with the Sunday gathering, or is it there's another way to display this, and I'm choosing to display it another way?
Yeah, I think that's what more and more people are looking for is that valued connection where they feel like they're a part of something and that thing is elevating them to a place where they're feeling enriched. And it's hard to feel that when you know that that person at the top of this pyramid is living a lifestyle that isn't what you are have agreed upon as a congregation, as a group. That you're supposed to live this way, but then this side of here is looking completely different, and it sucks being a theater fan. That's just me.
It's interesting. So I I mean for me for the last 11, well, not 11, I mean since 2001, I've gone to church just about every Sunday.
Hmm.
I think I have missed more school than I have missed Sunday service, and I barely missed any school. So that's kind of like
Nerd.
my history with this. Nerd. This is some points I would have scored them all. But recently, recently, some circumstances in my life going through separation and things,
Mhm.
and so I've had to, I'm looking for a new community, new church, and it's interesting the angle that now I have with because now I have to figure out what is the obligation that I'm going to operate under? What am I
Yeah,
going to hold myself to?
yeah.
And now it's not me and somebody else, but I'm just looking at myself. And so when people talk about Sunday, and again, I've been at a high level in church wise as far as leadership and stuff goes. And there's a lot of times where you just kind of operate just because that's just the blueprint. But when suddenly the blueprint is no longer there, you start to see things from a different lens. You start asking the question of what is the Sunday gathering? Like why do I attend here? And if I don't
Hmm.
show up, right? And a lot of people feel this. If I don't show up to Sunday gathering, people make me feel like I'm sinning. People make me feel like in a certain way.
Lighter.
Was that a yeah, was that something that was easy for you to transfer over? Or was that something that was a pretty quick shift for you? Because I
Uh,
feel like that's a battle that probably people are having right now.
it was not easy. I don't think any of that is easy. When you're in that moment of who am I and how do I connect to this community, um, that's hard. I mean, I'm a strong-willed individual, and that took me a long time to figure out who and what I was supposed to be. And I was intentful because of my upbringing, because of the education that I had formally. I had to, and I hate the word deconstruct. It's such an awful phrasing
Pretty
now,
considered.
right? But you have to rebuild. There's times when a tornado tears down your house, you can either build on top of the same foundation or redo it. And rebuilding a house isn't easy, and that's an awful, tragically bad, but it's a necessary. And the struggle that you go through to make that happen is 100%. So I think you're fortunate to be able to go through that and to have Kenny in your life to help you restructure. I'm happy to be in your life now and to be able
Yeah.
to share what
Well,
I've got.
so I appreciate that. So
I
let me
wouldn't
ask you
count
this,
me as a
because
blessing. So.
no, Kenny is something else. There's other words for Kenny. But you, my friend Donovan, that's different. Um, so one of the things that I know people, so I'm curious now that we're kind of going down this path. Part of the deconstructing is prior is you're under a church. You have a again, I can't advocate for every denomination out there, so I'm just going to speak generally, right? So you have a
Speak to
church
your own.
leader, like you have your pastor. Yeah, yeah. Well, so you have your pastor,
Hmm.
right? And then within that, then you have the elders around him, right? Then you have your deacon. So there seems to be roles within the church that's supposed to be present to, was it Ephesians 4:11, right? It's equipped the saints for the work of the ministry, and you have all those shepherd evangelists. So I think one of the things that people would say is, well, if you're not in the Sunday gathering the way that people talk about church, like there's things that you're missing out. are there things that you would concede and say, hey, here are things that I am missing out on Sunday that I'm not going to get in other places? Do you feel like there's those things?
So I want to say yes and I want to say no. Uh, yes, you're missing out on things because when you're in a big community, such as a church, whether your Sunday community is 100, 150, or if you're 3,000, there's something to be had plugged into a thing.
Just for clarification, just for clarification, just for
Mhm.
clarification, because all of us understand there is a spiritual church that we're all connected to. But when we say the church, we're specifically talking about a Sunday gathering for this sake of this
Yeah,
conversation.
Sunday
Okay,
gathering.
cool. Keep going.
And I
I
talk
just
about,
don't want
I
people
use the word
to overhear what you're saying.
yeah, I use the word community because Sunday gathering, Saturday gathering, I call the Meridian Speedway my church. It's the Church of Murrayville because being connected to people who are fellowshipping with you, there's a rich reward to get from it. So if you're not participating in a group setting, you're missing that enrichment. Uh, but is that enrichment good for your soul, or is it? Are you eating a well balanced meal, or are you partaking of junk food? If it's not, if your community, if your people aren't giving you that fullness of becoming a better you, it's not empowering you. When you eat a really good steak dinner with your vegetables and your glass of wine and doing those things, and your body feels like it got the thing it needed, or is it getting filled with junk? So having that Sunday morning church should give you that power to go forward. I think you should do that big piece that you have to go forward. If it's not doing that, then it's not the thing for you. If you don't go to something, you are missing out on that fact that we as humans, we need to have. Every major culture in the world is going to have some sort of anatomy. And that's there to bond the chemical part of our brain that tells us like this is good and we belong, and it gives you that self identity of being part of a group. We gotta have that. That should be a part of your identity.
So one of the things that I think that somebody that goes to Sunday gathering might emphasize is, one of the important things is to partake in the Lord's Supper, for example, right?
Mhm.
Donovan, is that something that you in your path, like, is that something you still are able to uphold? Is how do you for people that might be listening, they may look at that specifically and say, hey, when we get Sunday gathering, we partake in the Lord's Supper. What does that look
Yep.
like for you?
All right. So when you break down the ritual of what that is, you're not eating and drinking the same thing that Jesus ate and drank when he did that first communion. Uh, right now, at least in the Church of Christ, when we do this symbolizes the body of Christ. This symbolizes the blood of Christ. So it's symbolism. So you can inject any other thing into that symbolism to mean that as a person, I'm reliving this moment. Uh, so I think that comes back to being in that group of people and negotiating what that looks like and feels like for you and your people. So that the intent, the mental, spiritual, emotional connection is a good, valid connection for the purpose of what that fulfills. And for me, I do similar. Mine looks a little different, uh, but you can easily argue same thing. You can argue that a taco and a margarita, argue any of those things in that method to do that thing is valid. So, and where two or more gathered, there seems to be three of us on this little call right now. This is church.
Kenny, how do you I know you also don't really attend a Sunday gathering in the way that people think.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile the? How do you respond to his as far as even in regards to the Lord's Supper? And also, you're kind of off camera, just so you know.
I,
Yeah, there's. Yeah, that's way better.
well, I'll say it like this. I suppose that I think that you know I suppose that it's very important. Um, I'm not a student um, of theology. I don't quite like theology, but I suppose that it is important. I think that one of the most important things is when it comes to that, I think it has more to do with, so interpretation is all fine and dandy, but one of the most important things is our relationship in the sense of how we revere God and how the soul responds to the things that he was said to do or not to do. And it'll be very silly of me to um, describe something or to even say what I myself do or how I participate in this. But I will say that I do find this to be important. Um, and that is one of the parts of I would say, the scriptures that does come to mind more often than not concerning being outside of the congregation of the peoples. Um, the ultimate question for me is, who is the master? And if Christ is the master, then his words are very important and what he's prescribed is very important. And it is very, I would say it is incumbent upon everyone, whether in the church, in the physical buildings and so forth, or outside of it, like Christians and parts of the, I would say the true church, to figure out how they're going to keep in step with that. Um, yeah, I hesitate to speak too much on that because I don't know enough. And there's something about these things that I believe should be a little bit guarded. Um, but I think the big question is who is the master and how does one respond to the master? Um, I think if that question can be answered honestly, sincerely, um, then it's up to the individual to take this.
What?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can hear you.
Yeah, then it's up to
Yeah.
the individual to take a, it's up to the individual to take a step in all sincerity towards that obedience.
I feel like the one of the challenges that I'm running to in my head is the so I'll tell a quick story. This has been a really rough season of my life, and there's some people that I've had to apologize to and have a conversation with, and these people happen to be non-Christians, right? And so they're like, "Hey, you're being hypocritical," right? And I'm like, "Oh, they're correct. I was hypocrite," and and so then they kind of like went on to the direction of like, and again, the person didn't go back and forth with me. They just made that statement, so I got to respond. And in my response, I told them like, "Hey." the things I said are not less true because I don't walk in them. They just hold less weight, right? Because of the person that's delivering the message. The truth is still there, but the weight of it may not be, you know what I mean? Like if Dave Ramsey, not trying to get into, gave us financial advice versus I give you a financial advice, we could say the exact same thing. But when you hear it from Dave Ramsey, it does mean a lot, whether you agree with his plans or not. It's just that's the background. And I think sometimes that's where I struggle with um, some of these topics that we're talking about right now. It's where you can point to a lot of churches that abuse the authority, they abuse, right, and they take advantage of certain things. But that doesn't mean that the importance of it becomes less. It just means it's the messenger who's saying it can wait less, right? So if you have a terrible encounter with a pastor, right, every time that person talks, it's kind of hard to believe anything they say. And I think that sometimes can happen with upbringings as well, where you can have a bad experience, right? And they think, oh, because I've had a bad experience, therefore it must mean that this thing is less. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to get to with this church and the responsibility and should believers be a part of it. It's I know, Donovan, when you gave your example, right, you're using examples of, I mean, let's just say what it is, right? The language is prosperity gospel, right? It's you're going to these third world countries and talking about jets. I just watched a video today where this, I hate that it's in Africa. I should hate that it's anywhere, but I just hate it a little more that it's from Africa. But, but it's like, you hear it in every country or continent, but it's like this guy was talking to his congregation, and you could tell the congregation is in poverty. It's an Instagram group page that I follow. It just updates you on and stuff. So I hear it every day. And this guy said, in my dream, God told me tomorrow I'm gonna get $20 million.
Sweet.
Right? You could see something like that, right? It's like
I never had dreams.
the yeah. Uh Pray God that don't come true because that's the kind of stuff next week he's gonna wake up 100 million, you know what I mean? But so you have experience, you see stuff like that and you think, I can't trust the this entity. I can't trust this institution because I can see it could be what's done to you, what's done to other people. Um, I guess what's your response to that?
I love those people. Nothing makes me happier and giddier than when I watch the televangelist style of folk standing before the people talking about how God spoke to them in those ways. I find it
That's a shame
deeply
that you just
entertaining.
can't look away.
It's just, wow, the audacity.
Yeah,
Um,
but please go on.
oh, no, no. I have nothing good to add to that. Everything I'm going to say is cynical.
Yeah, a little bit of cynicism never killed anyone. Well, the idea is this: is that see, that's basically the that's the church at its worst, right? So, but there is the church at its best. Right?
Yes.
So, um, and I think ideas and um, institutions and um, ideas in general should be judged at their best to see if they can hold water. There
Yes.
are churches out there doing things particularly quite well, and people are. Um, oh, it's to their own. Hopefully, they would say that they're fulfilled and whatever is supposed to be happening in that building is happening. Well, whatever is supposed to be happening in their soul. So you have reports, you know, churches where the pastor leaves them for years and he knows all their names. He visits their home, they visit his home. He grows up, he grows old, and he dies. And turns out he wasn't sleeping with the altar boys or some shit like that. He was a good man. And that happens. So the question is always, you know, to me, because of the way I see these things, I really don't care about the church per se, the building. and the congregation, I do have a good amount of care for the Christians, but I think that the question, the question of being in church or out of the church is a question of, um, it goes back to who is the master and how do you, how do you want to respond to him? You know? I don't think it matters all that much because I think, like I've mentioned to you before, there are many people who are in church and they're just complete bastards and asswipes. And there are many people who are in there who are wonderful, just like there are many people who are out at the church and complete assholes, jack-offs. But there are others who are out and doing quite well. Um, the very God is not a respective person. Never has been, never will be. Um, so to me, it's an impossible task. I think I mean, it might be a good one for someone who is trying to figure these things out. But who is your master, and how do you, in your conscience, in your soul, with all discipline and responsibility, how do you want to serve him? Have you decided to, and how are you going to do it? In all honesty, in all sincerity. Um, that's really all that matters. Whether you're in a wonderful little cathedral, good for you. And if you're out there in the racetrack, good for you. But who is your master? How have you in all sincerity decided to serve him? And
Love that.
that's it for me. Mm.
Mm-hmm. What is
You got the uh, so there's something that's happening that it seems like again what you're saying. I mean I don't know if there's anybody out there that disagree with you. As far as I'm sure there's some people out there, but for the most part, I think people would agree with you. Like, hey, who's your master? It's an important question, right? And hopefully you're saying Jesus, and therefore you're following him. But there's something that happens where I think people tend to lean to church, like their master, they'll say is Jesus, right? But maybe they're leaning towards their church leaders. Maybe it's their small group leader. Maybe it's, and so they're just doing whatever it's kind of they're told to do, maybe potentially. Um, and so then an individual can, it can almost, sometimes it can be seen to say no to a church leader or to a pastor can feel like you're saying no to Jesus and no to God. Have you
Yeah,
guys,
for
is
sure.
that, you
and
know what I mean? Because you can't distinguish the two.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Exactly. So,
if go no, if you feel that way, right?
Yeah. The
Oh, so
nuances
yeah, go on,
in
please.
all of that. It's hard. Just when you're, it's you want to appease the people who are educating you and the guiding you and shepherding you, because you want to respect that and you want to show that you're respectful. And it's difficult to separate out that person who's directly above you or guiding you versus what your understanding is of what gets higher is. And it's it's a challenge for a lot of people to break those two things up and to say you're my educator, but this is my goal, but I'm getting there through you. That's such a, it's tough and it's
so,
complicated.
well, I might be comparing these things, and maybe they shouldn't be compared, but I'm going to take a whack at it. So you have
What are you
the
thinking?
Protestant Reform, yeah. So you have the Protestant Reformation, right? And during that Reformation period, you essentially, before that, you had the Catholic Church, and they kind of did not dictated, don't like in a non-negative way, but they had authority,
Mhm.
and the Pope had the most authority, and everybody kind of operated from there, right? To the point where um, the individual people kind of just have to trust everything to the people above them, right? Then enters the Protestant Reformation, of its many different objectives that it had, right? One of the disagreements, one of the things that the Catholic Church didn't like was, well, if you're going to remove this authority, then everybody becomes their own theologian. Everybody becomes their own, right? Versus having one system that kind of told everybody how to interpret things. Now everybody becomes an interpreter. That's one of the not backline, one of the responses that maybe the Catholics would use when debating someone that's a Protestant, right? And then the Protestant would say, well, all of us have, I mean, I'm representing that, but just 30,000 view explanation. But Protestant might look at it and say, well, every one of us has the Holy Spirit in us. We are capable of talking to God, right? And so I can read the scripture for myself. And then, yeah, we can have a pastor, we can have this, but I'm going to do at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I believe the scripture is saying to do. That's ultimately, and I think each one of us has that responsibility. Like if you feel like this is, I think you should walk in that, because at the end of the day, you're going to be responsible for your own actions. But so you have that where um, everybody is now their own interpreter. When you look into the Sunday format, right, you kind of have the Sunday gathering again, right? And
Mhm.
everybody that agrees to these doctrines kind of fits back into this. And then you start to have people that are like, hey, I don't quite see it this way. So they'll kind of look at the Sunday gathering differently. Um, I don't know if that's a fair comparison. I don't know if
It's
that's a fair comparison, but it sounds like what's to stop everybody becoming an interpreter of what the Sunday gathering should look like?
that's a great question, um, and you just nailed down why there's 5,000 different denominations in the U.S. It's nothing is to say why you think differently than Kenny, than you think differently than I do. It's your interpretation. It's your personal walk with your master, your savior, your relationship, and you are responsible for your relationship. Just like we talked about Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's role, we talked about some other things, tying those all back together again. At some point, you have to stop and go, who am I? Why am I? What am I? And what is my goals with this thing that I'm doing, this walk that I'm on in life? To take that personal responsibility to say, I don't agree with this piece. I want to learn more about this other piece and grow. And that's the challenging part. That's when I talk about what I did in my early 20s, where you're at now. Um, it's it's daunting to gain that level of understanding of self and understanding of purpose, and to hold that higher level of thought and follow that and to serve that master in a way that resonates within you as a person without giving you the guilt that is often associated with failing. Because we're all going to fail constantly. But to be able to walk upright with your shoulder tied, um, and to say, I made these choices for me because it's what I understood and how I'm going to go. And then to be, I love the penitent, I'm going to say, I want to say the penitent mind, where you do the best you can with what you know, and you accept that there's things you just don't, and wherever you fall short, in whatever that master is, then I'm sorry, I'm doing what I can, and then and walk your walk, and look to gain more, better understanding of you and who you serve. The big thing is you got to walk the walk, you got to learn, and you have to apply those things as you evolve. That's your
Yeah.
responsibility.
Pe- there are people who, I don't think that, you ever heard like this kind of situation where, for example, there's like a birthday party with kids. I think I've used this example with you. So there's like birthday parties with some birthday party kids are jumping around in a bouncy house, and some kid jumps the wrong way and flies out of the bouncy house and breaks his leg. And, and mother comes and she's like, "Oh my goodness, my kid is all died. He's broken his leg. It's the bouncy house. We got to get rid of the bouncy house." No, no. Your kid just sucks at bouncing. Don't ruin it for the other kids. You know what I mean? Like, don't ruin it for everybody else. The bouncy house is fine. It's done nothing wrong, right? Like,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like that, I don't believe in throwing out the
Uh-huh.
baby with the bathwater. I think the freedom, if God gives us freedom,
Mm-hmm.
there is there are people out there who will, deceiving themselves or sincerely misunderstanding, one is better than the other, will do some fucked up shit and say some fucked up shit. Um, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that freedom is wicked. It means that people are people. And usually I would say that the wickedness lies in our own hearts. I find it hard to believe. It's very interesting because whether in church or out of the church, you bring people who have decided, who have chosen their master, following their master with all sincerity. They very much look very similar. They are different, but fucking wicked. A good friend of mine is an Orthodox guy, and he is tatted up. He is, you know,
Mm.
bald, as bald as Donovan, and bearded up too. Well, not anymore. He cut his beard. Looks like a thumb now. And he looks like a bloody thumb. But but he's a sharp guy, and he has a wicked, wicked good heart. And he's very knowledgeable about his Orthodox life and so forth. And we've had conversations, and we found out that we believe a lot of the same things. He came to it through orthodoxy. I came through it through my own experiences and my own studies and so forth. But we both know who our master is. Um, at the end of the day, you really shouldn't. I don't think we should try to stop people. Right?
Mm-hmm.
People. The law is there to stop the wicked. It's going to. But when it comes to like spiritual things, for the church and so forth, I think that one of the best things we can do is actually it's the leaders that need to be stopped because they're the ones who have the capacity to destroy a lot. I mean, when you see Christ dealing with the Pharisees, he does not pull punches, and he's very direct with them about the wickednesses that they propagate. But with the individual people, you find it very hard to find situations where he is beating them down. But the leaders, on the other hand, he is not mincing words with. My point is simply that the freedoms that we have in Christ, they should remain freedoms. It is it is the Spirit of God that will, how you say, justify those who are true and condemn those who are not. It's just that simple. A life well lived usually, and I mean this usually, not all the time, but usually shows just a wicked amount of fruit. And a life thoroughly lived often reveals itself as well. And so, I don't care too much um, about people saying, well, doesn't that mean that everybody's up for it? Everybody should be interpreting things on their own. Well, if they can, they should. And if they can't, then they should find a very good church that can do so for them. Because, listen, people are not equal. We like to think that we're all equal. We're not. Some of us have more money than others. Some of us are smarter than others. Some are taller, some are shorter. Some are highly intelligent. Some are retards. So listen, man. Some people know how to live with freedom, and others don't. Some people takes time for them to get into a place where they're more confident to walk in the road, while others are geniuses from the time they're born. We're not equal. And so these institutions, though I am not a fan of institutions whatsoever, especially Christian institutions, I think they're necessary, especially the good ones, the ones that are actually doing good for people. Because one of the most daunting and terrifying things when one picks up the Bible is, for example, where to start. And then how does one interpret what one is hearing? And if you have a bad person over you, you could destroy your life. But if you have a good person over you, it could lead you down good waters. If you have a stupid mind that does not know how to think for itself, and there are minds like that, you will fuck yourself up. If you have a really good mind, and then not to mention the gifts, if you still believe in those, I certainly do. Not to mention people
Hmm.
who have certain gifts that give them deep understandings, brilliant understandings about things that nobody else. We, well,
Yep.
yeah, things that nobody else
Mhm.
would easily, well, yeah, things that nobody else would easily understand, find out. So I'd say that to him who says, everything is up for interpretation, I say, yes, good. God is alive, so is his spirit. Therefore, I'm not worried.
I just want to say, it's taken a long time.
Hmm?
This, you're, you're amazing. I love the way you think.
I appreciate it. I had 3 glasses of whiskey before I came here. It's the whiskey chocolate.
Hey, I've been scooping dog poop all day long, and this is number two.
My,
Um,
I, I, I swear to you, I can't wait to find a cigar lounge where I can actually have a glass of whiskey. It's not legal here in Virginia.
oh, oh, that's horrible, horrible.
Oh
I'm
no.
in a
If a
cigar
man
bar.
wants to
There's
destroy his, if a man wants to destroy his lungs and his livers at the same time, who are you to stop them?
there are
This is America, damn it.
there are
Give me liberty or give me death.
there are 20 plus people in this building right now. All of us having our favorite little thing, and
No kidding.
there's little networking groups happening right now. There's people who I've networked with in different, and they're having one-on-ones. They're congregating and fellowshipping with each other right here, right now. I love this life
When
that we have.
when you visit Kenny, I'll take you to these places.
Are you guys in
Oh
the
yeah.
same city?
Yeah, yeah, we're in the same city. Donovan,
Oh,
not here. We
Oh,
we
oh,
network together.
oh,
yeah.
that's dope. Yeah, love to visit. Love to visit
You
that
have to.
lounge.
There's a
We'll
bunch of
we'll
them.
take him out, Donovan, when he
Oh yeah.
visits. We'll take him
Well,
out.
well,
We'll treat him out a little
dude,
bit.
there's no chance
But
of you not coming here and we don't sit down and
no,
have
no, 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 no.
whiskey and
But
a cigar
first, but
together. There's
first,
that world
but
doesn't
first,
exist where we
Donovan.
don't.
No, but for the first thing we got to do is you got to give him the experience to how to scoop dog poop. So we got to first take him down that path. Like, yeah, you got to work his way up to that.
Real easy. Um,
Okay, Donna, I know there's gonna be people locally that will be uh hearing this podcast and stuff, and I want to give a little time to just kind of your I think your business, the vision, and how it started with your son. I think it's a powerful thing, man. Like I think it's a
thank
powerful
you.
thing, right? It's like he wants to get something, and
Mhm.
then you're like, all right, what are you gonna do about it? And then that
Yeah.
moment where somebody's like, I wish somebody would pick up my poop, right? And then the question
Boom.
arises, how much would it pay? I mean,
Right.
that's such a powerful question, man. How much will it
Yeah.
pay? And then
Well,
the business starts. Can you give more information on your business?
I mean, outside of that, it's a very traditional home services business. Much like your lawn mowing system or service or anything else. We're a subscription service will come out and take care of that one chore that we all love our dogs. At least the people who have dogs tend to love their dogs. Um, and there's either it's a pain point to have to do that one part of dog ownership where you don't want to. And many people do, they take on that responsibility. But I go to a groomer and I pay them to groom this. When I had hair, I paid a hairstylist to cut my hair. Um, it's a luxury service that we all have luxury services. I also have a house cleaner. I pay people to come in and clean my tub and toilet. I don't want to do it. But so in pet waste management, we're Cooper Scoopers, and that's just it. We leave that point of having to do a job that you just don't want to do, or you can't. I do a lot of one-on-one with chiropractors, physical therapists. When you get injured and you are unable to, I did the scoop earlier today for a husband and wife. They both had back surgeries. So just the chore of scooping, getting out there and hunched over and doing that on the lawn, it's difficult. But you shouldn't be penalized. You can't get rid of your dogs for that. So we exist, and that's what we do. And it's a fantastic service that we get to do. And I don't understand why people are so big thankful. But there's so many people who ever like, man, you've changed our lives between husbands and wives, spouses, parents and children, taking away that one piece that is contentious in their relationship to allow them to enjoy the thing they love, their dogs, each other, and to not have to worry about the pile that's out there making a yard. And dogs will step in it. They bring it back inside. So it will help you keep your house clean and your relationships. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I go more into this is been a way better of a conversation I could ever have dreamed of 2 hours ago. You know,
Let's go. Let's go.
this is
Well,
this is this for me, and all honesty, the last what hour and 45 minutes or so has been freaking amazing. I am in love with this to
yeah,
dive
I
into those pieces of us, and we're obviously on three different journeys. This is amazing.
that's true. That's true. Um, touch on that before I get. So one of my goals in this podcast, when I told Kenny, is my hope is to expose the world to Kenny, like genuine. So to hear you say earlier what you said about Kenny, I'm like mission accomplished. Kenny hates
Dude,
it,
I
but
love it.
I love it. But it's like that's literally my objective. Is like I want people to know who this guy is because I think you got a taste of the kind of person he is, and it's very different, but it's very there's a lot of wisdom there. I really think
Oh,
he's an
it's
80-year-old man
Get
and
off
a
my
6 year.
penis, Charles.
oh,
Why do you have to kill it like that, man? Why do you have to kill it
um,
like that, Kenny? I'm trying to.
what
So
I've
you know how like
seen.
you know how people like sabotage relationships?
Right.
Yeah.
Kenny does that
I mean,
whenever people
I,
start complimenting him, he'll find some way to sabotage the whole thing.
dude, here's what I'm saying. Still waters run deep. And Kenny, you are given a nice, beautiful pond of in the mountains in that beautiful lake, and you know that your depths go all the way down to below sea level. Your contemplation and the way you're able to communicate that out has been amazing. This whole conversation.
No comment,
Wh-
Kenny. Don't you dare say. Don't say
Where
anything,
you
Kenny.
reserve and yet still give depth. It's
Well, it doesn't really mean much. It's coming from a bald guy with a poop eater.
yeah, who loves auto racing and wrestling. So yeah, let's go.
I appre
Uh,
I appreciate it, Donovan. Thank you.
well done, well done. So Donovan, just last
Hmm?
second on your business specifically, where could one, how can people reach you? But two, what are the areas in
Hmm.
how far do you go out?
So if you're in the local Treasure Valley area, Micron to Middleton, cover the whole valley.
Okay,
So and then you can find where like this with the lawn dogs, for the
okay,
lawndogs.com. Google it, our SEOs, you can find it.
that's
How
awesome.
long have
Facebook,
you guys been in
Twitter. It's
business?
we're hitting officially since we registered the business and became a thing. We're hitting 2 years here in a couple of months, which is 14 years in dog years. So
Yeah. Now that's lawn
Yeah,
dogs with,
that's
is that a DAWGS I saw?
oh, straight up.
What?
They're just the lawn
Okay,
dogs.
dogs. Okay,
Oh man,
actually, lawn. So,
Um, I didn't.
that's
Neither my son and I. When I say my boys are carving, I will. I will preach the amazingness of what my kid is. Who's high functioning autistic. So he struggles in communicating with people and getting out of his norms. I obviously do not. I am a large personality everywhere I go, and I have a lot of rep edges. But I am so thankful that he's in my life and who he is, his willingness to be empathetic and sensitive to all of the things that has made me make sure that this business and who we are together reflects that and really welcoming anybody and all people, regardless of any social status or physical status. It's a joy and a pleasure every day.
it's really awesome to see the it's really awesome to see the relationship that you have with your son and like um even when you and I talk, like I know you work on it a lot, but it's like you clearly recognize this is you and your son's business together. And like
Mm.
I just think that's special, man. Like and yeah, I think one day I need to meet this guy. So but with that we'll kind of wrap up.
Yeah,
Quick question for you, Donald.
yeah, yeah.
You got four people on the Mount Rushmore of WWE. Who are your four? I'm gonna give you mine. Kenny will give you his, but we want to hear yours first. Four
Okay.
people on Mount Rushmore. We have to be wrap up in
Yeah.
2 minutes, so
For me, uh, Jake the Snake.
go.
Jake the Snake is one of my
Okay.
favorite of all time. Big Boss Man. Hulk Hogan's always got to be up there. And then I'm gonna put, and I can't put them together. I can't put them separately because for me they're always gonna be together. Kurt Angle, Rock, and Triple H. In that whole era they had together, but they are a
What?
unity. Yeah,
You
they have
can't
to.
do that. You can't
Yes,
do
I can.
that. You can't do
Because
that. That's cheating.
the relationship they had when they were kicking off in the what was that like early 2000s when all three of them
Wait,
were
wait, do you mean who are the people?
uh, Kurt Angle, The Rock, and Triple H. They had a wonderful
Oh, I see
dynamic.
what you're saying. I see
For
what you're saying. Okay,
me,
no mind.
they were one entity that made that whole era. I appreciate the generation and all this stuff, but for me, Big Boss Man is one of my favorites. Jake the Snake, but no, Hulk really defined what became WWE, WWF back in the day. It got personality. And then that moment of the three of them, for me, the Rock, Triple H, and Kurt Angle, defined a whole generation, just the three of them together. And I can't separate them because they made it as one. For me.
I'll let that slide. All right. So I mean, we might sue you. Actually, you might get some favors. So just be ready for that. Um, okay, I guess Kenny, you want to say your four real quick? Do you know yours
yeah.
on the top?
I would go with Shawn Michaels,
Mhm.
Hulk Hogan, um, Triple H for sure, um, Undertaker.
Yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good one.
good.
That's a good
Solid.
one. Yep. For me, I mean, I think Triple H is number one in my opinion, longevity. So Triple H is up there. I feel like you have to put Stone Cold Steve Austin. He has to be in the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I keep forgetting this
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. I think he's got to be on there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
dude, and you're about to see. I really everything in my soul wants to put Goldberg in there, but he didn't do enough. But I
Mhm.
think I think John Cena has to be in there. I think John Cena did a lot.
As a human being,
And
he's
for
amazing.
me, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, dude, it's the stuff that he does.
Mhm.
And then I think, dude, I think number four for me, dude, I think you're
Dwayne the
right. I think
Dildo
it has to be
Johnson.
under.
Mhm.
He doesn't like the Raiden Rock Johnson. Kid, he hates him. But I think Undertaker for me. I think he gives in there. But um, Goldberg would be in there if he could set aside accolades and I mean, Goldberg was just that guy. And the fact that you're bald like him and you don't have him on your list is
He
crazy
was
to me.
consistent, but he was a good B player. He made other people better. So, um,
Bro, dude, there's something about WWE that I know we gotta wrap up that
yeah,
there's just something about it. Like when you find someone that likes WWE, I feel, you know how like people WWE is one of those things where if someone says they like it, you feel like you know enough about them. You know what I mean? To like
Like you
whatever's
have deep
about to
intelligence.
happen, that's what it is. It's like it's a tag team partner. That's what just
yeah,
happened. When you say I like WWE, like if I was interviewing somebody and they said to me, I watch Dragon Ball Z or I watch WWE, it's a lock, dude. I don't care who all the people in the lobby, it's all good. We're done here. We're done here. Doesn't even matter if he's qualified.
yeah,
But anyways, so we'll wrap up. But
yeah.
all right,
And,
well, I really appreciate you. Go ahead, Donovan. You want to say something real quick?
oh, I'd say you can't have any WWE conversation without like TJ. But that's just me.
Oh, what about NW New World Order? What about them?
We didn't talk about that. We just talked about WWE. There's so many
That's
wrestlers.
true. That's true.
And if we want to go
That's
East
true.
Coast, I'll talk to Kenny later about my guy up in New Jersey who runs his own fed. So I mean, we'll go.
Well, who runs on what?
His own federation. He's a wrestler.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of guys who are actually semi-pro and amateur. Like, no, I love this industry. It's freaking amazing.
Donovan,
Well,
we may have to have you jump on another time with all of us. We got to
We'll do
wrap
a
up.
private talk.
Um,
Yeah, we'll do this.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, appreciate you, Donovan. Thank you for jumping on, Kenny. When you
Love,
it
visit,
was a
we'll
whatever.
pleasure.
go smoke a
Nice,
cigar together.
nice meeting you, Donovan.
You as well, Kenny.
Take
Man,
care,
I
Joe.
will talk to you later. Thank you,
For
guys.
sure.
Peace.
Bye.